the last chapter, I also personally took a lot out of this, Mellow, on balance. It really reminded me of what I know I need to keep doing, and how much I actually really value balance myself.
Mm.
Excuse me. The life lesson that was in that chapter that I'd love to just quickly read for folks is this, that you wrote: we can find balance if we give ourselves permission. Everybody, I want you to just underline that word, permission. We can find balance if we give ourselves permission to slow down after periods of stress or busyness, find rest, and create spaces to renew your energy. I often find that it's difficult for a lot of people just to give ourselves permission to do something for ourselves and to actually let go of the guilt surrounding the
Mm.
notion of actually slowing down and finding balance. Have you found the same, Mello? And one of the things I'll just say really quickly is sometimes I have, and it's just life, right? You've got a really busy schedule. I've got some things coming up. I've got to do some traveling, a lot of workshops in a short period of time, traveling overseas. But I actually think I'm actually looking forward to that. And I also know what I've programmed is some time where I'm not going to be traveling afterwards,
Mm.
or I'm going to go away for a weekend with my family and give myself little rewards for those busy periods. And
Mm.
it just invigorates me because you've got something to look forward to. If you're just constantly on the grind, yes, that's going to wear you down.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Probably one of the most difficult things. I do coach a lot of high achievers, high performers, like I said before, from CEOs of companies to athletes to entrepreneurs. And a lot of them, that's the hardest thing to actually get them to stop.
Mm,
They think that busyness is productive, and being busy on this fast treadmill, and that's the best way to work. Just full throttle, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And there's a cost to that, and that cost is burnout. So the first thing I need to do is ask them to give themselves permission to stop. And I try to get across to them that if they actually stop for 90 seconds or 2 minutes or
yeah,
5 minutes or 10 minutes, then their next 2 hours will be more productive.
so true. It's
Yeah.
true.
Sometimes the very thing that we need to be more productive is a pause, is a
Right.
stop. And you can stop for a couple of minutes and you reset your mind. The amygdala deactivates and refire up. The prefrontal cortex is the place that we want to be operating out of. So the
Yeah.
prefrontal cortex is that area of executive function.
Yeah.
Emotional regulation happens there. Decision making, planning, logical analytical thinking, all of these things are happening from the front part of the brain, but it's not designed to be switched on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In fact, the research says that we can only operate in peak performance for 90-minute to 2 hour windows. And then we need a break. And then we need to change gears there. So that's that first thing, to give that self permission to stop. And I call it punctuate your day. Punctuate your day with short little rests. And sometimes we can't afford to even have a rest. But I coach a lot of surgeons also, and I say, even if you can get 90 seconds while you're washing your hands between surgery,
Mm,
and follow your breath for 90 seconds, that's better than nothing. Or
yeah.
if you can even go outside and walk around the block for 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So punctuating your day with these sort of periods, because it's all about balance. It's all about balancing that sympathetic activity, the fight and flight response, that on sort of place, with that parasympathetic, and sort of keep that in balance. So exactly what you said there. And I share this in the book also. If you've had a busy day, you've had a full on day at work, and you've been teaching all day or working all day or whatever it is that you're doing, give yourself permission to have a night off. Don't check your emails. Don't, stay on your, phone and start thumbing around with fodder. Give your brain a bit of a break. If you've had a busy week, let's say, give yourself a little reward, like you were saying before. Have a weekend away with the family, or just, have a doing some hobbies and interests that you like to do. If you've had a busy term, at school, or if you've had a busy period, or a busy project, give yourself a little retreat, a little break, whatever it is that makes you feel good, that recharges that. So if
Yes.
we're doing these constantly throughout the days, weeks, and months, then we won't be wiped out and burnt out at the end of the week or the end of the day. We're renewing our energy on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. Athletes know it very well. I coach a few athletes, including an Olympic athlete. They are fantastic at actually
Yeah.
taking renewal breaks. So they know, to be the best at their craft or their sports, they can't run a marathon non-stop. They do their training and then they have a break. They eat well, they sleep well, they renew their energy, then they do more training and they have renewal breaks. So they know the idea of that very well.
We can take a lot from them because they know the power of recovery. They're not going to perform without recovery. And I just loved it, Melo, because we can start from a 90-second breath break, right, whilst you're washing your hands, to other things like, you talked about punctuate. I talk about changing channels, go for a walk around the block. And I always find that when the fogginess begins, it'd actually be better if you can pick it up before that. But sometimes, hey, it's just, there's the fogginess. I'm not concentrating. I'm getting easily distracted, right? Your energy's waning, right? Your focus isn't what it was or what it needs to be. Change channels, right, is the way I think about it.
Yeah.
Get some sun, take a 90-second breath break, whatever it is. But then as you're doing it throughout, where you might sort of build it up from a weekend away to doing connecting with a friend or some interests and hobbies, then one of the biggest things I took from Melo's work, everybody, is this. Can you recover from burnout? Sure, but it's really, really hard, and it can take months or years. Much, much easier to prevent it. And that's one of the key things I took from your book.
If we catch it in the earlier stages, and again, what you're talking about is that awareness piece. Having the awareness. What do I need to do right now to renew my energy? Do I need to walk around the block? Do I need to make a cup of tea? Do I need to go chat with somebody? And change the channel. I like the way you put that. What can I do to change that? I have a rule every time I get up from my computer. Every time I've been working away for a few hours, I have to close off at least 5 tabs.
I need to do that because my tabs are terrible.
Yeah. Exactly. And just reset your focus again. I have another rule when I come back from lunch. So after I've been working a whole sort of morning and into the lunch mode, when I come back from lunch, I ask myself the question, what's the one thing I need to do this afternoon to make my day successful? Not the 700 things, but what's the one thing I need to do? So you're resetting your intentions constantly throughout the day, blocking out your time with periods of work, 2-hour windows of hard cognitive work, punctuating that with some breaks and little rest breaks, and then more hard work, and just keep working in that flow. You won't be wiped out at the end of the day.
Melo, I just want to thank you again for the time. We've actually covered as much as we could. Well, actually, we've covered every chapter in the book, but very briefly. And I thought we said, look, let's just keep going, and we'll either publish it in full or maybe break it up. We don't know, but at least we've got you and we've got your wisdom in all of the chapters. If you're watching this via video, I'll show you where you can get Melo's book, but you can also get it. We'll put the show notes wherever you're accessing this, whether it's via podcast or on our website or on YouTube or wherever it is. We'll put the text. And I want to see if I can just pull this up here. And you're seeing this, Melo, on your screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, so here it is, everybody. This is where there's a QR code where you can get Melo's book, and you can actually download a free chapter by going to Melo's website there. And I just cannot recommend it enough. It is truly transformational, everybody. And as I said, we'll be putting all of these details in text in the show notes wherever you're accessing this interview with Melo. And thanks again, Melo. I really appreciate you taking the time. I've loved this book. I truly have. As I said, I would go and say to my wife, look, let me read this to you. Let me read this to you. I think it's just a really nice affirmation too, because the more you do this, the more you actually see, your cancer client, the clients you with, your own life, the people, my own life, the people that I've worked with. And it's like, well, wait a minute. These things seem to be helping everybody across every area of life. So really powerful. And
my goal with the book was basically to capture my 3 decades of work that I have done and simplify the complex and just make it super easy to learn and to implement in your life, because that's where the change happens. And by the way, we didn't mention actually it's also released as an audiobook. So
Oh,
yeah, so I was recently, which was kind of nice to reread the book after, because I wrote the book around about a year ago now, and I had to reread the book. And a word of advice for anybody that has to read an audiobook is do not use the word similarly. Similarly, because I got stuck on that for about 20 minutes. Similarly. But it is released also on Amazon. You can find it, and Audible and all those places that you find audiobooks if you prefer just to listen to it.
oh,
And it is my voice. So I'm the one that I did speak it all the way through, of course.
well, I'll have to get the audio version also, Mello, because I do prefer listening actually.
Yes.
Yeah, but thank you again, and thank you everybody for being here and accessing this. You can find Mello either through me. I can pass on his information, or you've gotten that information, and we'll put that in the show notes also.
Thanks, Rocky. That was awesome to go through chapter by chapter. I really enjoyed a little reminder on the purpose of the book.
Great. Thanks again, Mello.
Thanks, mate.